Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. Happy to be here with you today, sir. Well, we're midway through the week. It's hump day. It's the last time I checked anyway.
Yeah, and I was stumbling across I was going through some old video, and I came across a bit of audio which I think deserves to be played because I think this piece of audio was prophetic. This is the late Charlie Kirk.
Charlie Kirk presidency 15 years from now? No. I mean, I'm enjoying myself, but this is going to get really nasty. Everyone listen to this. I just hope you understand. They're going to be coming after us. They're going to be following us in the middle of the night. They're going to be breaking into our houses. You think I'm joking? They're going to be violent. You will not be able to walk the streets of the MAGA hat without your physical health be put in jeopardy. And I hope it doesn't get that way. I hope that this clip gets unearthed and everything's like wonderful. I hope that the country comes together and we have a beautiful Unitarian healing moment in September.
You know, it's funny. He was he was prophetic. This guy, they asked him, do you see Charlie Kirk being president in 15? He says, no. He says, but I do see. And then he talks about the violence and the turmoil. And that was only about, I understand, like 2-3 years ago. And we're kind of going in that direction now. I watched a video, Bill, last night. It was about 10 minutes of clips from people on the left threatening violence against us.
That's been going on all the time. It's getting more viral that they do that. They can't not do it. They're beside themselves.
They're talking not just about, raising hell on the street. They're talking about getting guns and shooting us. And I thought, man, they talk about us being, violent. No, it's the left. Go ahead, Bill.
I was going to say, one way to get to them. See, Trump uses it on them, and I'll explain that in a little bit. But they like to sit there and say the negative things at you, and throw the negative memes, and say the vile hate stuff because they know that it gets your goat, and they thrive on it. They live on it. But what would happen if and nobody will do it. I mean, even I go, well, I don't really want to dump them. We just sat there and said, now, a lot of people have turned off Facebook and whatnot. I've walked away from it, but I see stuff when I do go to it, like to post a show. I go, oh, come on. But, what if we just sat there and said, no mas, it's done. And you unfriend them, you turn the damn thing, just turn it off. And I don't think you would be as riled anymore. You may not know what the left is up to, but you really don't care about them and their sad, sucky lives. Let them suck by themselves.
I heard a commentary this morning about how a lot of the young people, I thought this is really interesting.
They're tuning out.
They're putting their phones aside. Mm-hmm. They're putting, they're separating, they're carving out some time for themselves that's non-tech involved.
Mm-hmm.
And
I said that earlier a couple of weeks ago that 2020, and I did an article that I got to go back and rewrite, and it's the end of the Democrats, the liberals, because their hate for us is going to be self-fulfilling for us if we just sit there and, stand back and let them implode. They're going to do it. That hate is getting in a way to where people are seeing through it, tuning them out. We're tuning out the media because it's all the same thing. Social media, phones, all the technology, all the ad bombs that are going on. And there are big companies that fund them because they can take the hate and profit from them because there are algorithms that drive. We're driven by fear and anger.
It's intentional.
It's intentional.
Yeah.
And some fat cat is getting richer and richer while they hate more and more and more. And some liberal judges going, well, you got to defend them because it's their freedom of speech. You got a freedom of speech. And then you don't have a freedom of hate and bludgeoning.
Well, there's this freedom of speech, and then there's threats.
Yeah.
And there's a difference. But, I was thinking as I was watching some of the demonstrations in Minneapolis yesterday, and yes, they're still going on. Yes, they were rowdy last night. They continue this morning. It's nonstop. And yes, you say, how can they do that? They do it in shifts, folks. They do it in shifts, all right? But, I want to play a cut that before I get into where I was going to go. I want to play this is Jon Stewart. You know Jon Stewart of The Daily Show?
I know.
He used to be kind of funny, but he's not funny anymore.
Not anymore. He thinks he is.
They can't hide their political hate. Exactly. He was talking about the shooting in Minneapolis. I want you to listen very carefully to how he describes the shooting. Now, we've all seen the video. We've all seen what she did. Yeah, she may have been, and even President Trump said this, she may have been a nice person most of the time. But at that moment, she was behind the wheel of a 3,000-pound vehicle, and she gunned it toward an ICE agent. The mere fact that he was able to get out of the way shouldn't be something that he has to be penalized for. People say, well, he got out of the way. What do you expect? If you gun a car towards me and I can get out of the way, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to, justify my actions by letting you run over me. So,
right.
Anyway, here's Jon Stewart yesterday. Listen to this.
When I look at that video, I don't see both sides in a dogmatic stance. I see a woman, maybe naive, sitting in a car thinking she has to do something and she's going to block something, and a wildly extreme overreaction to that small act of defiance. And then like, I just, when they say like she was radicalized, I just think, well, there are masked gunmen in her neighborhood who she's read about taking 17-year-old kids and pulling them off the street. That wasn't, it didn't feel like, I know what a terrorist attack looks like.
Yeah. That was not a terrorist attack.
Well, let me tell you something, folks. You never should equate a comedian's humor with intelligence, all right? That we do that in our system. We equate celebrity with intelligence. And for the most part, in my experience, and I've been around for a while now, it's not the case. I've known a lot of very famous people in my career. I'm sure you have too. But I've met people on a one-on-one basis who were, quote, stars. I used to be a friend with a lady who was an Academy Award winner. I'm not going to throw names out or anything like that, but I only say that as a point of reference. When you get to know people, no matter how successful they've been, no matter how many accolades they have, you find out that they're just people. And maybe they're good at one thing, acting. Maybe they're good at being a funny comedian on the stage with a routine. But when you get to know some of these people on a one-on-one basis personally, sometimes you find out they're as dumb as a box of rocks. Did you hear how he described what she did? A small act of protest. No. She was behind the wheel of a 3,000-pound vehicle. She gunned it. The wheel spun on the ice, thank God, because if it got traction, she would have run over him. Mm-hmm. And then he talks about the ICE agents as masked gunmen stealing people's 17-year-old children off the street. Let me tell you what they did in Minneapolis in the past couple of days. I'll just make this short. I know you have something to say, Bill. But they've been arresting rapists. They've been arresting child predators. They've been arresting murderers. These are people who aren't supposed to be in our country. And yes, they're arresting some people who are here illegally too. But they're all breaking our laws.
Mm-hmm. And I was going to point that out. Yeah, that they've got a cadre of criminals that are there. That is a haven for them. That's a nest. Now, to sit there and diminish what she's done, she was in Canada for a while. She was going to training to do this. So that nice girl bit, I don't buy that. She lived in a house with her lover. I'll be kind on that one, who is a protester and active and an agitator. So when you live in a house of hate that is all Democrat hate towards not just the Republicans, but to Trump and to the Republicans too, because he's like a little whiny baby, can't get our way, we're going to break things and blow them up. You live in that house, you can't sit there and say, well, maybe she's good most of the time and had this one time. No, she chose her path, and this wasn't a thing where she was, doing a one-time thing. And then I've heard people say she was trying to get out of the way. If a police officer tells me to stop my vehicle, I stop it right there. If he goes, pull over to the side of the road over there, I pull over to the side of the road over there. I don't.
Not only that, but I usually I make damn sure that he can see both of my hands
on the wheel.
Yes.
Because he has no idea what you got beneath the seat, between the chairs, or in that little bin that's there in your driver's side door. He doesn't know.
And by the way, I remind
gun.
you that her significant other grabbed the door handle and yelled, "Drive, baby, drive, drive."
Yeah. So who now, and that should tell you about something about her lover, because she didn't listen to a voice of authority. Well, maybe she did, and that was her lover.
Well, I was reading, Bill. Did you see where some attorney general people in the attorney general's office in Minneapolis have, in protest, they have left their jobs because it says several prosecutors in Minneapolis, the U.S. Attorney's Office, have resigned in protest over the Department of Justice push to probe Renee Good's widow. But we have changed the definition on stuff in the past few years, just randomly nowadays, because it used to be a widow was the female partner of a male married couple, all right? But now it's like whoever's left over and whoever they want to be. Is she the widow or the widower in that relationship? I don't know. But anyway, apparently the Department of Justice is looking into her to find out more about her. And I think that's a good thing because she was as radical as her partner. And if she said, "Drive, baby, drive, drive," she instigated. She lit the fuse.
They don't want, for these prosecutors, they could be blocks, for justice, but they're running, they're leaving. They might be, I protest, I'm quitting my job. Good, because you're not going to get that job back.
You shouldn't be in the damn job in the first place.
Right. And what are you so worried about? Because that tells me that you're worried about what they're going to find. Do you have some hands in this too?
No, I agree. Another bit of news that I thought was interesting. Apparently, finally, President Trump is appearing to running out of rope when it comes to Pam Bondi. Finally, sources who go unnamed, but that's a common thing when it comes to the media nowadays. They never name any of their sources, but they have said that apparently Trump is disappointed that there have been no convictions, no charges, no indictments to speak of. The villains just keep walking the street, and nothing's happened. President Trump, one of the interesting things about President Trump is that, he gives his people a lot of leeway. He hires you for a job, and then he steps away. He moves away from you, so let you do your job. President Trump has let Pam Bondi almost for a year now do her job, which she has not done. Now, she has readily and quickly run to every TV camera at Fox and every interview opportunity, and every time she gets on camera, she talks big, boy. I'll tell you that we're doing our stuff and we're bringing the hammer down, but nothing ever happens. And apparently President Trump right now is at his breaking point. When President Trump gets turned off on somebody he's backed, it's not a pretty thing. He doesn't gradually let them fade away. He goes 180. Have you noticed that? He goes 180. He doesn't just say, well, it's good to see you leave. And we're gonna. It's like all of a sudden you become an enemy. And I think that's going to, if Pam Bondi doesn't come out with anything that's of any significance very soon, I think her days as the Attorney General are numbered. I could be wrong, but that's the word on the street right now, that she's run out of rope, so to speak. And by the way, I wanted to also point out, yesterday President Trump was walking into a F-150 plant, a Ford F-150 plant, a truck plant in Detroit. And as he's walking in, there was a heckler in the crowd who was yelling pedophile slurs at him, like President Trump was. Understand something. If he's anything, he's not a pedophile. He's never been a pedophile. He never went to Epstein Island like Clinton did, and I have something to say about him in a few minutes.
And Biden.
Well, as a matter of fact, you mentioned...
Yeah, Biden, you're talking about pedophiles. I mean,
well, listen to this.
But guess what? We got a lot to do. You gotta say hi to me. We go back a long way. She was 12, I was 30, but anyway... This woman helped me get an awful lot done. At any rate.
Unbelievable. That was the president of the United States at the time.
Yeah, and you know what? She was actually his babysitter. She was,
but that was
underage.
I don't think he was talking to his wife. I think he was talking.
No, he was talking to a kid out in the But his wife was a teenager too that was under.
Oh, you're right. Well, he was
underage.
This wasn't something he started recently.
Right.
He's been this way for a while.
If Dirty Joe, okay, let's just say that let's go back 15, even 20 years. He was still considered a senior man, past 50. All right. So with that in mind, you got a 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old, and that old man is sitting there going, yeah, I like your daughter. Well, she's 15 and I'm
30.
50.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you. So yesterday, Trump is walking into this F-150 plant, and this heckler is making these lewd remarks, and President Trump, in his characteristic no-holds-back moment, he flipped him the bird. He flipped him the bird and mouthed the words "F you," right? Just so the guy could see him do it. Trump didn't care. Maybe this is part of the freedom he's experiencing in his last term in office. He realizes he doesn't have to run again. But the media got their tighty whities and knots. Oh my God! He said that he flipped the bird, and he said the F word. Understand something. Just a few days ago, the mayor of Minneapolis and the governor of Minnesota and all these other people, the DA in Philadelphia, they were dropping F-bombs on mic in press conferences like it was a hot potato. It's like, hey, F you.
That's a double standard.
Yes. Exactly.
And also, if Trump would have just sat there and turned the other cheek, just kept walking, looked and smiled and nodded his head, or even didn't even do anything, they would have said that was a form of admission.
Well, I have to tell you, Bill, I got to read you this.
Damned if you do and damned if you don't. So I would have told him what he could do with this pedophile statement.
Here's what Stephen Chung is the spokesperson. I think he's assistant press secretary, I think, but he's at the White House, and he wrote this. He defended Trump. He said, quote, "A lunatic was wildly screaming expletives in a fit of rage, and the president gave an appropriate and unambiguous response." I love it. That was such a perfect, it was done in a dignified way, the answer. It was a appropriate and unambiguous response. Well,
it was a deserved response. I'm trying to find something here to talk about, but you know how the phones change.
I did want to point out that Obama, we talk about what's happening in Minneapolis with ICE and how they're demonizing ICE. They've worked so hard, and the media has gleefully supported their efforts in making ICE appear to be the Gestapo. Okay, they've really tried to demonize these guys who are just trying to do their job. And by the way, if they were the Gestapo, the difference is they wouldn't shove you aside. They wouldn't arrest you. They'd shoot you. All right? And by the way, people may say, well, they shot somebody in Minneapolis. No. They wouldn't just shoot one person. They'd be shooting people all over the place. That's how the Gestapo worked. It wasn't a matter. It wasn't a matter of one selective act. It was like you do something, the Gestapo put a gun to your head, and you're done. All right, so there's no comparison. These guys are enforcing our laws, but I want you to hear what Obama said in 2013 about deportations. Now, this is the saint of the left, Saint Barack Hussein Obama.
Last time we spoke, you said that you weren't king, you were president. There were only certain things you could do unilaterally. As time goes on, 1,000 deportations on average a day. People are wondering, and our Twitter feeds and Facebook feeds, that's the question everybody asks. Won't you at least consider unilaterally freezing deportations for the parents of deferred action kids?
Yeah. Here's the problem that I have, Jose, and I've said this consistently. My job in the executive branch is supposed to be to carry out the laws that are passed. Congress has said, here's the law when it comes to those who are undocumented, and they allocate a whole bunch of money for enforcement. And what I have been able to do is to make a legal argument that I think is absolutely right, which is that given the resources we have, we can't do everything that Congress has asked us to do. What we can do is then carve out the DREAM Act folks, saying young people who have basically grown up here are Americans that we should welcome. We're not going to have them operate under a cloud, under a shadow. But if we start broadening that, then essentially I would be ignoring the law in a way that I think would be very difficult to defend legally. So that's not an option. And I do get a little worried that advocates of immigration reform start losing heart and immediately thinking, well, somehow there's an out here. If Congress doesn't act, we'll just have the president sign something and that'll take care of it. We won't have to worry about it.
Now that's Obama. And Obama's sounding like Trump, right? That was 2013.
Yeah.
In 2016, Bill, they had a press conference, and they talked at the press conference at the White House about ICE. This is Obama's press secretary speaking.
Josh, there have been reports that the Department of Homeland Security and ICE have begun removal operations, I think what they're calling it, others are calling it raids, against Central American families who came across the border illegally over the past year and a half. And some of the reports suggest that, families, the Los Angeles Times quoted a woman saying that her family in Georgia, ICE agents came in, looked room to room, woke up her own kids. They were shaking with fear. Wondering if the administration can confirm that those operations have begun and whether the White House has had input directly with DHS about how those operations should be handled and whether there are any concerns about striking fear into the communities, including those who may be here legally, living with some of these other folks as these are carried out.
David, for individual operations, I'd refer you to the Department of Homeland Security, and they can discuss with you individual operations that were carried out. What I can tell you is that the Department of Homeland Security has prioritized the cases of recent arrivals, individuals who recently crossed the border into the United States without proper documentation. And those, again, based on public statements, including a statement that was recently issued by the Secretary of Homeland Security, were the nature of the operations that were carried out over the last several days. This is consistent with the kinds of priorities that the president himself has talked about.
The president himself talked at all about, with the Department of Homeland Security, about sort of the way these operations are conducted and the tone that they're taking with, and the way that they look for the immigrants around them.
Well, obviously, in terms of setting policy, the White House and the Department of Homeland Security have had discussions about some of these matters, but ultimately when it comes to enforcement issues, those are decisions that are made by law enforcement professionals.
That's the White House, all right? Mm-hmm. Now, that sounds like what Trump is doing, right? So between 2016 and now, the Democrat Party did a 180 with regard to their philosophy on illegal immigration in our country. I mean, Obama was removing, what was it, 1,000 people a day? I mean, a lot of people from who were here illegally were being deported by Barack Obama. Nobody said a word about it. Nothing to see here.
Trump, he's a Democrat and he's a man of color. So he had 2 tiers of a trifecta there. So, but Trump, different thing. He's a conservative. He's Trump and he's white. So
there's no way, by the way, there's no way, and I think Trump realizes this, to a certain segment, not a very large segment, but a very vocal segment of our population, he can do nothing right. He will never do anything right. I mentioned this before. Trump could find the cure to cancer, and the left, the volatile left, would protest it. It would happen. I don't see where we're going to see a peaceful outcome in Minneapolis, because I think this segment, Bill, by the way, I was going to say earlier, when they shoot video of these demonstrators, you have to understand that there's an agenda even in the production value of how they shoot it. If the crowd is a modest crowd, they can make that crowd look enormous.
Oh, they can crop it. And well, now with AI, you can insert a crowd.
Well, what happened? Remember what happened, Bill, at that airport video that you were talking about?
Yeah,
it was.
I think I was the one that actually
you found
it out first, and then all of a sudden everything. Oh yeah, that's right, and then boom, there it was. The reflection of the cowling on the engine was chrome. It was shiny.
Yeah,
and there was no reflection in it of a crowd, which means it was cropped in. And then there were rallies with Timmy and Kamala, and they're going, Republicans can't beat this. But when you blew up the picture, AI wasn't that good then, and it still makes mistakes. And sometimes that signature is to let you know it's AI. Like, here's a guy waving his hand. He's got 2 left hands with only 3 fingers.
Yeah,
and one of them is his thumb.
Yeah,
and then there's the Fungul brothers. There's one. They're not twins. They're not triplets, quadruplets.
Yes.
They're quintuplets.
They're doppelgangers.
All throughout the crowd. And then their sisters are there, too, which are quintuplets.
Well,
and,
do you remember what they used to do at
the inbred crowd?
At the rallies for Biden, they would go to an arena, and if they anticipated the crowd being modest, they would literally cordon off half the arena. They would curtain it off so you couldn't have access to the other empty half of the arena, and they would jam everybody into one side. And if you couldn't fill that up, they would drop drapes or curtains to cover certain sections off. So what you saw appeared to be a decent crowd. In reality, it wasn't so good.
Oh yeah, and you could push the crowd forward and then shoot from behind, so you're shooting overheads. Wow, they're immersed in people all around,
Yep.
And then you can kind of rock that camera around like you're being shoved. And all of a sudden, we're here at the Biden-Kamala rally here, and I'll tell you, there's tens of thousands of people in there, and there might be 50 to 100. Whoop-de-doo.
I think that if you are in, and I've wondered about this, Bill, I think there are people in Minnesota, good, normal Americans who live in Minnesota, who've got to be cringing every time they wake up and realize what's happening in their largest city, Minneapolis.
They got to stand up and start making some noise. They got to sit there and, take to social media, not sit there and get involved in answering the hate memes, but they got to make their voices known, call into talk shows, do whatever, and let people know that, there are some sane, rational people in Minnesota and not these bust-in dweebs, because the Democrats are good for that.
I remember, Bill, that not too long ago, but when I was a younger gentleman, Minnesota, Minneapolis were prized jewels. You wanted to see a clean city.
Prized fools now.
Well, you wanted to see a clean city. You wanted to see a all-American city. You went to Minneapolis. Not anymore.
Well, and it's funny, they elected Tim Walz. That's what they got.
Yeah.
I even look, I laughed at Jesse Ventura, but at least you can go back and look. They weren't doing what they're doing now.
He's lost his friggin' mind, too. And
he has, but I'm just saying.
By the way, like and share our show if you would. Tell your friends about us. It's mail@jimandbill.com if you want to contact us. The show is called Jim and Bill, It's Another Day. Tell your friends, because word of mouth still really works.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com.
So I find it funny how Trump, goats people.
Yeah.
The left, they're easily agitated. They're going, oh, you can't make this stuff up. And Trump put together a Wikipedia meme. And it had as a matter of fact, if you look, it's the picture of him after they did the Georgia thing and he did that famous,
Scowl.
look, that scowl.
You mean the mugshot?
The mugshot, yeah, and he's sitting there doing that. The thing won't open up to say what it says, but basically it's a Wikipedia posting like a resume saying, yeah, President of the United States, yada, 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 acting president of Venezuela. And that's got the left going. And I'm like going, yeah, do you know? And I'm just for the lefty friends. He got you. You're sitting there going, oh,
well, he said
now we know.
He suggested that Marco Rubio should be the president of Cuba, which I thought was terrific. But listen to what he said, by the way, to the people of Minnesota yesterday in a Truth Social. He talked about this stupid lawsuit that Keith Ellison and Waltz had filed against the administration for the ICE agents doing their job in Minneapolis, a job which, by the way, would be a lot easier and a lot safer if the mayor of Minneapolis said to his police force, cooperate with ICE. If you have somebody who you have arrested who's illegal, just keep them there and ICE will come by and pick them up. That's not what they're doing. What they're doing is, because of these Democratic lunatic politicians, they are releasing them back into the community and saying essentially to ICE, find them yourself. So that it's putting not only the criminal at jeopardy, but it's also putting citizens at jeopardy, because what if it becomes a violent confrontation? What if a gun goes off and some innocent bystander gets shot? Anyway, Trump was talking about Ellison and about Waltz, and he ended his Truth Social comments yesterday with this here. Fear not, great people of Minnesota. The day of reckoning and retribution is coming. It's got the left going bananas in Minnesota. Just that one line alone in yesterday's Truth Social lit a fuse. It's like, oh, what did he mean by that? Well, what do you mean retribution? What's he doing? See, these people are used to actions without consequences.
Exactly.
It's not going to be that way anymore. It's not going to be. Go ahead.
It's interesting. You just mentioned, them reacting to something he did on Truth Social.
Yeah.
I just mentioned something that he did on Truth Social. And the Democrats will have you believe that Truth Social is a dirge.
Yeah,
it's not effective. Nobody uses it
except
at
them.
all,
except every Democrat.
Yeah, well, that's what they do. And I hate to tell Elon Musk this, but when he bought Twitter, and they said that's it, we're dumping Twitter, but then Twitter became the X, and all of a sudden they realized, well, it's a viable platform. They're back on there, and they, some of the Elon, if you get this, you got corruption inside of your ranks and file in there, and they are now shadow banning the conservative voice again, and it's going on, and all the liberals are in there. They got pages, and they're doing their hate stuff. But then he makes money on it.
They blocked you for no reason, gave you no explanation, and when you asked for one, they haven't responded.
They haven't responded. Now, I had two profiles, so I had to go to the other one. And then that one got flagged, and I go, well, what's it flagged for? Hate speech. This podcast is considered vile and hate speech by somebody from the left that complained.
Oh, Bill, like I said yesterday,
on the X.
What you and I do is something we would do and be paid a lot of money to do in the old days on large talk radio stations in this country. And you may say, well, why is that anything important? Well, you have to go by certain rules and regulations when you're doing broadcast radio programs. You can't be vulgar. You cannot be. You just cannot be what you can be, for example, on a lot of these podcasts. Joe Rogan, for example, who I like, Joe Rogan would not work on regular terrestrial radio because he is liberal. He liberally uses the F-bomb like it's no big deal. And that's not acceptable in commercial radio. But what we do, you literally could take the program, with a few modest exceptions, and those aren't us. Those are usually the actualities we use. But for the most part, you can take our show and stick it on a radio station every day. We don't violate standards. We are former broadcasters. So when somebody comes along at X, some dweeb, some unknown faceless dweeb, they haven't got the gonads to even identify who they are. They just, in the dark, they decide, well, I'm going to pull Bill Knight's post. I'm going to block his account. And they don't have to give you an explanation or a reason why. They just do it. Because I don't like those nasty conservatives. They are so nasty.
The left is out there going now, you don't have to serve ICE. If you're a hotel, and they're ICE agents, you don't have to book them. If you're a restaurant, you don't have to serve them. Now, I do recall in the past, and I don't have it right in front of me because I just saw this thing, but, somebody from the right, somebody that leans right and leans Trump saying, no, we don't serve wacky left people. Oh, that's a lawsuit. You see, we can't restrict doing business to you, but you can restrict doing business with us.
Well, it's a two-way street. What do they say? If the liberal left didn't have double standards, they'd have no standards at all. Which is true. That they have. Well, let me give you another example, Bill. This is where we're going right now.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Clinton was supposed to be in a congressional hearing. He was
he blew it off.
He was subpoenaed. Now, if the federal government handed you a subpoena, if Congress said, Bill Knight, you've got to come in and testify on Tuesday, the 13th of January in 2026.
It's called contempt of court if you don't do it.
Well, could you blow them off?
No, not even accidentally.
Well, here's how it sounded yesterday in Congress.
We will go on the record. Good morning. This is a deposition of former President William J. Clinton conducted by the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. On July 23, 2025, the Subcommittee on Federal Law Enforcement unanimously voted to approve a motion directing the committee to authorize and issue a subpoena to former President Clinton for a deposition. I'm going to note for the record that former President Clinton is not present. The time is 10:07. We're going to mark items for the record. We will mark as Exhibit 1 a cover letter from Chairman Comer dated August 5th, 2025, enclosing the deposition subpoena and email confirmation from former President Clinton's attorney, David Kendall, accepting the letter and the subpoena. We'll mark as Exhibit 8 a letter dated December 15th, 2025, from Chairman Comer to Mr. Kendall, again urging his clients to appear and referencing that failure to appear will initiate the prospect of contempt proceedings. The letter also encloses the updated deposition subpoena for today's date and email confirmation from Mr. Kendall accepting the letter and subpoena. I will note that the time is now 10:10 and former President Clinton has still not appeared.
Okay, so that's what happened yesterday. The Clintons claimed they already provided the committee with all of the information they have on Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, and they have to take a stand somewhere. Now, if Donald Trump did this, they would, first of all, take him down to a prison and have his mugshot taken. Ooh, they've done that already, haven't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they would probably indict him for contempt of Congress, right? Yeah, they've done that. But Bill Clinton does it, And, he expects to walk away. Now, you may say, why does he expect to walk away?
Well, he's appointed a lot of judges that owe him favors.
Well, not just that. His attorney general was a gentleman named Eric Holder. Eric Holder was given a subpoena to testify in front of Congress. He ignored it and was held in contempt of Congress. And do you know what happened to Eric Holder?
Nothing.
Not a damn thing. Now, on the other hand, Stephen, what's his name? Oh, gosh. You know what I'm talking about.
War Room?
The War Room, yeah. Steve Bannon.
Yeah.
Steve Bannon, he says that I cannot testify in front of Congress because I have to claim executive immunity. There are certain things that the president confides in me as an advisor that require me to maintain my confidentiality. I can't testify. So, you know what they did to him, the Democrats? They threw him in prison for 4 months.
Yep.
4 months. And not a nice prison. I think he went to Danbury.
Yes, he did.
Not a nice place to be. So that was Stephen Bannon, right? Peter Navarro, another guy who claimed the same thing, another intelligent former advisor to President Trump. They sent him to jail for 4 months. You may say, well, the president pardoned him afterwards, or, well, yeah, that was after the fact. They already were in prison for 4 months.
But they did the time. They did the time. They were forced to do the time. They did the time. And the taint is still there. The memory is still there.
So, Bill,
it's a suit you got to wear the rest of your life.
Eric Holder, right? He literally was able to just walk away. And I think that's because, in all honesty, I think the Republicans in Congress just haven't got the cojones, as they would say.
Balls, yeah.
Yeah, to put their money where their mouth is. Whereas the Democrats, I mean, they'll send you to prison on a parking ticket. And it's amazing. I hear people say about Pam Bondi, getting back to her, well, she's putting cases together. That Merrick Garland, he could put a case together and indict you and send you to prison. He could do that over lunch. So what the hell is Pam Bondi doing? Now she's got to get off her tuchus right now. I don't mean next week. I don't mean in a month from now. She's got to start performing today. And might I suggest, if someone has access to Pam Bondi who listens to this show, tell her, don't worry about all of the details, dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's, because they didn't do that in the Biden administration. They just indicted. Hell, they went through the president's house and went through his wife's lingerie drawer. They didn't have all of their stuff together. They just did it.
They just wanted to on that. They didn't have a subpoena for that. They just wanted to see what you had.
Well, they found out.
Because, it came from a pervert administration, so.
Comer, who, again, he's another guy who I kind of like him, but he's a lot of gas, but no momentum. It's like he puts the pedal to the metal, but the car doesn't move. You know what I'm saying? Like he was on Hannity's program last night. Well, let's take a break here first, because the clip is a little long. Like and share the show if you would. It's Jim and Bill. It's another day. Jim and Bill. It's another day. You can email us at mail@jimandbill.com. Mail@jimandbill.com.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com. So last night Comer is on Hannity's program, Bill, and they're talking about the Clinton situation. And, listen to what happened.
All right, Bill and Hillary Clinton have refused to appear before two House Oversight Committee to testify as part of their investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. In an 8-page letter to Chairman Comer, Clinton's lawyers said they, quote, have already provided the limited information they possess about Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. They called the effort, quote, nothing more than a ploy and attempt to embarrass Trump's political rivals. Chairman Comer spoke to reporters outside the hearing room where Bill Bill Clinton was due to testify earlier today and laid out what is coming next. Take a look.
As a result of Bill Clinton not showing up for his lawful subpoena, which again was voted on unanimously by the committee in a bipartisan manner, we will move next week in the House Oversight Committee markup to hold former President Clinton in contempt of Congress.
All right, so Chairman Comer joins us now. Is it true that Peter Navarro was held in contempt and he went to prison, and Steve Bannon held in contempt and he went to prison? Did that happen in those cases?
100%. When Democrats subpoenaed Republicans and the Republicans didn't show, they held them in contempt, and the Department of Justice prosecuted them.
And do we have 17 chronicled examples of Jeffrey Epstein visiting Bill Clinton when he was president of our country?
Yes, Sean. When Bill Clinton was president, Jeffrey Epstein went to the White House 17 times, and then post-presidency, Bill Clinton flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane at least 27 times. So that shows they were close. Again, no one's accusing Bill Clinton of any wrongdoing. We just have questions. And the Democrats in Congress, they've gone, all full war mode on trying to get people in to talk about Epstein. But when it came to Bill Clinton, initially the Democrats voted for the subpoena, and they said, yeah, we want to hear from Bill Clinton too. Today they were a no-show. They didn't even come to the deposition, and they're all running and evading reporters who, quite surprisingly, the mainstream media has been pretty critical that Bill Clinton didn't show up for this subpoena.
And just as a matter of reference, didn't Donald Trump throw Epstein out of his club some 25 years ago because of his behavior with young women that he found inappropriate?
Yes,
if somebody had incriminating information on Donald Trump, would he so publicly in a town like Palm Beach, where social circles, I guess, matter to a lot of people, would he publicly do that if he had incriminating information?
Yeah, look, Donald Trump has answered thousands of questions from the American public and from the media about Epstein. To my knowledge, Bill Clinton hasn't answered any questions. And what he said in that letter, he's provided us his information about his knowledge of Epstein. He didn't provide hardly any information for someone that allowed Epstein to go to the White House 17 times while he was president and then fly on his plane 27 times. So we have questions. If anyone in America is interested in Epstein and getting to the truth about what really happened and who needs to be held accountable and how the government failed the victims, then Bill Clinton is someone that would be a person of interest, whether you're a Republican or Democrat.
Well, I find this so interesting because there are a lot of so-called people that claim to be conservatives, only when it's convenient, in my view, demanding Donald Trump. Joe Biden had access to this information. He never released it, but I'm seeing pictures of Bill Clinton all over the place with young women in a hot tub, mystery women sitting on his lap in Jeffrey Epstein's plane, swimming in a pool with a woman that looks pretty naked to me, Ghislaine Maxwell and somebody else. I think he has some explaining to do, considering so many people wanted Donald Trump to answer, no?
You're exactly right. The American people are interested in this. They want to know the truth. We're trying to provide the truth on the Oversight Committee. This subpoena wasn't just issued by me. It was voted on unanimously by the Oversight Committee. Every Democrat in that committee voted for this subpoena. So the President Clinton is not telling the truth when he says this is partisan. This is a bipartisan subpoena.
Okay, that's James Comer on Hannity's show last night. And we'll see where this goes. James Comer has, like I said, he can make it sound like they're going to drop the hammer tomorrow, and then nothing happens. Which is typical for the people on the right. They don't seem to have the same attack dog mentality that the people on the left have. They just, they talk a good game. I think we're at a crossroads right now, Bill. I think that there's a faction in our society that is not just the left, but they're the rebel left, and they've decided that this is a pivotal moment, and we're gonna raise hell now, and we're gonna change the things we think should be changed. And I think that's why Minneapolis, it ain't over. I think it's going to get more raucous, and I think that the only way that's going to come to a conclusion is when I think the president initiates the Insurrection Act, which he hasn't done.
Right. Well, who knows what's going to go on Minneapolis? I'm surprised, with the temperatures being what they are, they can get out there and start their cars,
Yeah.
But
That's true. That's
you
true.
know, and you got to wonder, obviously you're going to get cold.
Well,
you've gone out and scraped our windows on a cold day, and you got to get in somewhere warm because your hands.
Well, where did these people go to train, Bill? They went to Canada, right? It's colder than Minneapolis, so maybe they were.
So they're used to it,
And maybe I truly think that someone has said, look, if we start the rebellion in January or December, right?
It'll only get easier.
It'll get easier as the days progress because things are going to warm up. We got to bring this thing to a conclusion at the end of summer. They've got a plan here, I think.
Oh, it's a walk up to look. Everything that they were trying to get for Trump for the midterms are important to the Democrats, and this is the only narrative they got right now. And they're going to play it for all they can. Now, if this narrative falls apart, then they got to ratchet it up somewhere. Now, the Democrats are in trouble. Their fundraising efforts are done. They're on their knees begging for money, even little AOC. And I'm like going, you had records amount of money and you're out of money now? What'd you do with the money? Or is it in your account and you're just trying to bilk your people for more? Because at the end of the day, they lose in November. Their life still goes on. It's a very rich and coddled life, thanks to you. So I don't know. Republican donations are up. Democrats are down.
And what are we not talking about right now because of these protests in Minneapolis? We're not talking about the Somali fraud. We're not talking about the $9 billion and the politicians, the corrupt politicians in Minnesota, and the corrupt politicians, by the way, in Washington too.
And the trillions of dollars in debt now with California. Oh, it goes on and on and on. It's
if they
crazy.
have another story like this to talk about, that can take the public's attention away from the real truth that there's a lot of corruption, a lot of thieves, and a lot of liars on the left, then they've done their job. If they can have you focused on, somebody throwing a rock through a ICE member's window. By the way, they've demonized ICE to make them the villain. They've demonized ICE so you don't realize that the real demons are the politicians who are stealing your money.
Well, they act like Trump made ICE. ICE was around before Trump. Well, you played the clip from earlier on. It goes back to Obama days and before. ICE has been around for a long, long time, and Trump is utilizing ICE, and it's not the first time they've been utilized. And it's not going to be, they're not going to end. These double standards have got to end.
Yes.
And we can't let the tail wag the dog, and that's what's going on right now. And the news media is part of that tail, and the dog's got an itchy rear end, and it's time, for you to shake it off. And
I think that's a little too much information. The dog has a ditchy rear end.
No, maybe it's time to get, maybe it's time we dock the tail, as they say. It's the.
Hey, I think that we can expect more protest today because they went all night long. I said that, and you may say, how can they do that? Don't they sleep? They sleep. They do this in shifts. This has all been planned. By the way, I don't know whether you noticed, but I think it was Jon Stewart who mentioned about they see their neighbors being arrested. No. The people who are protesting in Minneapolis right now, for the most part, are from other parts of the country. They bust them in. You talked about the ad that we saw in what town was that? Was it Philadelphia? The ad that you saw?
Philly for Craigslist.
City paper. No, it wasn't City Paper. Craigslist. Right.
Yeah.
Where they said $1,500 a day plus overtime expenses plus
bonuses,
hotel and food, and no experience required. Just bring your body and a mouth, so you can yell.
Now I gotta wonder something. Because we know that Pritzker owns hotels, and we also know that there's probably other libtards. And I can't believe this one Chinese billionaire that's a lefty loon.
Yeah, he's not really
and
Chinese. He's actually an American living in Shanghai.
Okay.
What's his name? Singham, I guess. Is it Neil Singham or something like that?
I can't believe. I mean, they can fund a lot, but it takes a lot of money to put these people and bus them around, buy all the supplies, and then sit there and
Bill, it takes a lot of preparation.
Yeah, I mean, this is like putting an army to war. To deploy, and you've got to make sure that these people are fed and clothed.
They have enough guns prepared to give them. You've got to have enough uniforms to give them.
If you look at the amount of people, it is more than a battalion. It's a battalion in each town, and this is a war campaign. Who's really funding it? Is what I wonder. Is it these billionaires, or is it these billionaires with, I don't know, some foreign help somewhere?
I mean, you would think that the DOJ would ask the trucking companies that are being hired to ship the pallets of ice bottles and food supplies and snacks to these, and bricks, by the way, and bricks. I forgot what riot it was where they were dropping off pallets of bricks on the streets.
Well, they were doing that in Minneapolis.
Yeah,
the last with Floyd.
Yeah.
I gotta wonder about all of this, because you look at the way things work anymore. We have corporations that are so detached from the street levels. Who's doing all this? Well, I don't know. It's not me. I'm just following orders. So you find the person they're following orders from. It's not me. I'm just following orders. And all of a sudden you hit a dead end street to where, well, who's next? I don't know.
Somebody is doing it.
Yeah. So the road stops at an email somewhere, and you're not getting to the real power brokers. And I'm starting to believe that I'm not starting to believe. I believe that there is a reason why they want to bring down the United States. I look at Trump's tariff war. The tariff war is not working.
Right.
China's, trade deficit is growing. Now, who's blocking the tariffs that should be in place? Well, the Democrats are. Who stands to profit from this? Well, China, and maybe whatever global consortium, person, organization, whatever, is that half of 1% that really is the money in control of everything.
I saw the other day. China, apparently, their economy is in a shambles, not in the solid state that it's in, that people would think it's in. They're having a lot of problems in China with labor. That people say, well, China's become the lead country when it comes to robotics and manufacturing, but at the cost of people losing their jobs. So there's a lot of people who are very disgruntled and very upset with the People's Army.
There's a bigger picture of what's going on. I mean, China's got a $1.2 trillion, trade surplus, and it's growing. And that's what tariffs really were meant to do, is even that playing field and get it down, because it's been unfair. So we'll put tariffs on them. Well, we can't do this. You've got a trade deficit to burn. It's not going to affect you at all.
So who would benefit from turmoil and maybe even a change of government? Believe me, folks, you have to remember Trump hasn't been in office a year yet. Now, we're talking about the midterms. We're talking about who's going to run after Trump. But the fact of the matter is, this guy's just getting started in his second term. So he's still got a lot of stuff he can do. He's done a lot in 11 months, a lot in 11 months. What can he do next? God only knows, but they're concerned about it, and they would love nothing more than to see him lose his administration.
Who are they in bed with? And they don't want us to know that. And that's the problem. The immediate problem that we have as John Q. Public is the midterms. We have to keep our eye on the ball. If
we have fighting in the streets in our cities,
right,
as we approach the midterms, you're not going to be able to concentrate, and the left is going to say the only reason why we're in turmoil is because of this president. That's what they're going to say.
Yeah.
Do you want this turmoil to continue? They're going to say, we can deliver peace. That's what they're going to say. Mind
Well,
you, they started the problem.
Well, think about this too. What's the likelihood of somebody in the Midwest or somebody in the suburbs that may be conservative going, okay, it's voting day. I'm not going to go out and vote because the radicals, the crazies are out there.
Yeah, and they're around the polling areas.
Yeah. And then, the Democrats will go, well, we got drop boxes and mail-in. You can use that. Well, some of them don't want to go to the polls either and may or may not use those drop boxes. So who does use them?
Don't think for 1 second that Biden, the benevolent person he is, allowed these thousands, these millions of strangers into our country just because he was concerned for their well-being. He did it because he realized that if they didn't get another source of votes into the country, another level of the Democratic Party into the country, they wouldn't win again.
Yeah.
So now that's why they're fighting so hard to keep these strangers here.
They've always sat there and radicalized somebody. It used to be the black population and culture.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that cultivated that prejudice and hate. The history goes back and lays right in the Democrats' doorsteps. And don't think it doesn't. Do your history research. It does. But, and I'm thankful that, black people have rights and there are more black billionaires now than there have been. There are a lot of affluent black people and doing well. But guess what?
And by the way, they have a lot of the minorities in this country have realized they've been used as dupes and pawns.
And guess what? They're going to be the next. They're going to be the future white people, and they're already on the way to where you're going to be. Right now, white people are on the defense. We're on the run. We're supposedly shrinking in numbers, but we have no say. We have been diminished. You're next because your replacements have illegally crossed the border.
Folks, think of what the left stands for nowadays. The left. If you're Democrat, you may say, I'm on the left. Well, think of what your party and your people stand for. They stand for guys playing in girls' sports. That's okay. They don't care about the woman. They don't care about the young lady or the girls who are playing sports. They used to be the party of feminism, the party of, power to the woman. No. Now they want the woman to sit down, and they're supporting trans. They're supporting people who feel they may be guys, they may have genitalia of a male, but man, they feel like a woman, so they should be allowed to play volleyball, weightlifting, basketball, whatever, gymnastics. They should have the authority to do that because they feel that way. And by the way, they should be allowed to go into your daughter's shower room and shower with them because they feel like a woman. Never mind the fact that they're going to openly shower naked next to all these young women. And now the Supreme Court is thinking about it. What the hell is there to think about? And the Supreme Court justices like Jackson, right?
Yeah.
She's still having a hard time figuring out what a woman is because she has these dumb questions, and I could play them for you, but I don't want to bore you with them.
Oh,
folks.
yeah, she did that boo-boo again. But, there's a thing that goes on in nature, and they talk about the how old the planet is and how long there's been life. Doesn't matter where you are, what planet you live on, there's evolution. Life evolves. We are the dominant force of life right now on this planet, but something can come along like, I don't know, transgenderism, sex changes and everything like that will render us extinct. But life will continue in a different form, and it ain't going to be us unless we get our heads out of our...
Let me add to that, okay? You talk about there's been a history of certain things that are constant in our world. All right?
Yeah.
One of the things that has been constant in our world from the time immemorial, from the very beginning of man and woman, has been the XX and the XY chromosome. They have always been, you could always tell, you could take an old person who's been dead hundreds of years and take their DNA and say, well, that was a woman. They may have very little left to show of themselves, but they can tell from DNA, well, that was a woman. They have the chromosomes. And that was a guy. Because he had the chromosome. That's how it worked out. So a constant throughout history has been the surety that man is man and woman is woman.
But we're erasing that constant.
But you can't erase it. It's like taking a car, taking a sedan and saying that it's a pickup truck, even though you've done nothing to it. You've done nothing to it.
Yeah,
it's still a sedan.
Yeah, but what they're going to do is procreation is how life propagates and goes forward. If you throw a monkey wrench into it, then maybe it stops procreating.
Well,
this planet there will be something if we're not, we got to get our act together.
And by the way, what we should do is stop shoving chemicals into our youth's systems that diminish their sexuality. They're doing
true.
that. They're giving some of these leftist doctors are shoving all these different drugs into. If Tommy says, "Boy, I feel," understand something. When a kid's 8 years old, he may feel like a dragon one day. It doesn't mean he's a dragon.
Okay, people talk about obesity and all these health problems. Well, it's all the chemicals and everything that we put in everything and the preservatives because you don't want it to go bad in the shelf while we're waiting for us to buy it and consume it. But if you go back through history, as I grew up, 3 meals a day and a snack in between, that's how a healthy boy is. From what I understand, that was a marketing campaign. It used to be that families, man didn't have to eat that often, man, woman. We didn't have to eat that often, but we've conditioned ourselves.
Oh, yeah. We were told that eating cereal for breakfast was important. It was a great breakfast
3 meals
food.
a day.
Cereal is grain. They feed grain to pigs and cows to fatten them up. Yep.
And that shortens your life, by the way.
What did Kennedy and his people do this week? They flipped the food triangle, the food pyramid. All the things that we were taught we should eat when we were kids are now they're saying don't eat them or eat very little of them because you don't need them in your system.
Well, what family was it, turn of the century, that basically they're the family that said, oh, you got to eat 3 meals a day because they had money.
The Kellogg family did it. The Post family did it.
Yeah.
Post cereals make breakfast a little bit better,
it was a marketing ploy. We have gotten fat because of a marketing ploy. And apparently the human body does not need to sit there and eat 3 meals a day.
We were shoving Fruit Loops into our kids' stomachs because we thought, well, it's a good breakfast food. No, it was like shoving cubes of sugar into their system.
Yeah.
And then we would wonder, why is little Tommy so hyper today?
Take salts out of your diet, take sugar out of your diet. And eat foods, go back, and I'm not one of those health nuts, but basically you can find ways to cook things to eat, and all of a sudden you can still have flavor and
look at what
be healthy.
Look at what some of our
and not be as hungry.
When animals in the wild, right? Look at what they eat for the most part. They eat mostly healthy foods because that's what naturally comes to them. They'll eat leaves or vegetables or something like that. Maybe they'll have a banana. But, they eat things that are naturally good for them because that's what nature tells them to eat. Man, on the other hand, has been shoving food and crap into his system. You deserve a break today. Have a Big Mac. Have nothing like a good 1,800-calorie greasy dinner. A lunch, rather. Anyway.
Yeah, look, you can look at nature to learn a few things. Even a bear, before it hibernates, it's got to get its 1 meal for the winter, and that's when it's, the feeding frenzy, whether it's the salmon in the river, or the hapless hunter or somebody traipsing through the woods. Well, that's my winter snack because I'm going to go hibernate. Nature, we've just got to get back to some common sense and reality. And we have been duped into a lot of things. Kind of a different topic here, but it's still political. Everything's political because...
Yeah. Hey, by the way, I should also point out, you see, we're on the verge of... something's on the verge of happening in Iran right now.
Yeah. The death toll there, yeah.
Well, their country's currency has collapsed completely. It's gone. Their monetary system is down the tubes.
Don't they have oil?
They have tons of oil. But
so where to go? Where's the money?
Well, all I know is that last I heard, over 500 of their own citizens were gunned down by their own police.
Well, I heard it was more than that.
I'm sure it is by now. But also, in another war situation in the Ukraine, one of our good friends, Ukraine, right? They happened to attack one of our oil tankers owned by Chevron. They dropped a drone into it, and I guess it blew up. I don't know how badly. I don't think it sank it, but it didn't help it. And also Russia has decided, hey, the best way to deal with Ukraine right now is to turn off its power completely, destroy its power, because apparently they're going through a real tough winter in Ukraine.
Sometimes, necessity is the mother of invention. I go back to Iran because they shut off the internet. Elon Musk said Starlink's on and it's free for you guys in Iran, so you can find out what's going on. That number that you gave, 500, actually, I got a number this morning that is 2,400, possibly over 2,500. That's from the intel we're getting, and some of that comes from Starlink. So
I believe that.
And there are ways. You have a way now that you can sit there without plugging in your phone. You set it on something, it charges. There is testing for new ways of distribution for power and different things like that. And, the grid's being shut off, that you're going to be able to, like I said, necessity, the mother of invention.
They have hand generators, meaning where you crank them for about, 30 minutes and then it'll stay powered. A generator you can charge your phones with them. I mean, you don't need to be on a grid. There are portable hand generators that you can literally power by manually to get a charge, because they have their own power generation system in it, right? And then you can use them to charge your cell phones and whatever you need to power when you haven't got the grid.
Well, there are answers out there to power. I don't want to get into a long debate, but I know you will know this, because you're a fan of history and science and Tesla. And Tesla had a system. Now you talk about the big antenna that he did that drew current and stuff and could provide free electricity.
Yeah.
Actually, there are plans for that that's a lot more economical, to where each house could be independent from the power grid. But who's going to make money out of that?
Well, you can't. You know how they'll make money on it? Truly, the power companies will say, well, we will own that receiver, or whatever that generator.
We'll do the maintenance
and
on
we'll
it.
do the maintenance on it. Exactly right.
Well, and see, that's the whole thing about, you don't have a business unless you got payments. Do you ever remember when you used to do the internet, and or you had your computer, and you're going, we're guys that record stuff. So we would go, I'll buy that software.
Yeah.
You bought that software, it was good. But then updates in the whatever you use to traverse around, all of a sudden says, you can't use that software anymore. You had to get an upgrade. But then somebody came along and said, if we make this little tweak every month and they can't buy the software. They got to lease it. So it used to be I could buy it for $29.99 now, and that was a one-time payment, even if it was only good for 2 or 3 years.
Yep.
That was pretty good. Now it's $29.99 a month, and everything is $29.99 a month. What I call Our Lady of Perpetual Payments.
Yeah.
If we get you on a payment plan and everybody, that looks cool. But when I see that, you want to, all you got to do is give us your credit card number and you can have it, and we'll sock it to you every month.
They want you to buy. They want you to buy. They want you to buy. They want you to pay.
They want your money, access to it. You know, and this could be the year that people wake up and degrid. I hope it is, because I'm kind of tired of the nonsense.
I am too. And with that, I think, speaking of nonsense, we got to wrap this one up because it's been a long show. We're going to have a lot to talk about tomorrow, too, and for the remainder of the week. Remember, tell your friends about us. You know, we're running into a situation where there are unseen, faceless leftists who are trying to diminish us. And it's very important that our listeners tell their friends about us. It really, because you'd be amazed at how powerful word of mouth still is. So you got to listen to these guys. It's really worth listening to. We're not always 100%. We're not perfect every day, but we sure as heck.
Sometimes we're 98.5%.
That's right. You know, I love your modesty. It's true. But
honest.
The fact of the matter is, we try every day. And we put a lot of work into it. We do give you the story as we believe it to be. We don't try to code it. And with that, I'm done for the remainder. You can take us out of here if you want to, Bill.
Well, I will. Don't forget to put the flower in your hair today, by the way.
Why is that, Bill?
Anniversary of what was it?
If you're going to San Francisco,
what did they call it? They called it
San Francisco, wasn't it?
Yeah, but they called it the. It was the Summer of Love, the counterculture thing. No, it was the
hey dude.
It was the human be in. Human be in.
If you're going to San Francisco,
be sure to wear a flower in your hair.
That's when I had hair, you know.
You know, it seemed I always got the flowers with the thorns, though. You know,
I know. Yes, it's a son of
and a bug too. You got bugs in your hair.
How long did you say it's been since that song came out, Bill?
59 years.
59 years. Holy
well, it came out. I think now would be when Mackenzie. No, they recorded. I think they wrapped the recording on this date back in '67, and basically it was a May song or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was the event that was going on today, and then you had the Summer of Love, man. You know. I'm going to tune in, man.
Flower power, man.
Yeah, man. Hey, smoke this. Here you go, man. And then you would sit there and go, you take a hit and go, hasta la vista, baby.
Yeah.
We're out of here.
Who are we? And why are we here? Will we be welcome or possibly feared? Do we unite and stand tall as a nation of one, or split and divide, or be mocked and shunned? Are our leaders patriotic, honest and true? Do they share our beliefs? Are they red, white, and blue? The truth is out there, you just right side with Right Side Coffee.
Available at rightsideshop.com. All music the property of Jim and Bill. All rights reserved. This is CRN America.